There are moments in life when everything that once felt solid begins to fade. Friends grow silent, support disappears, and you find yourself standing in the quiet, facing only your own breath. Many see this as loneliness, but those who walk the inner path know this is the beginning of something sacred. I am Shi Hengyi. Today I will share with you a truth few ever hear, that when you have no one but God, you are not lost, you are being refined. In Shaolin wisdom, solitude is not emptiness, it is training. It is where the mind is tempered, the heart is purified, and the spirit learns to stand on its own feet. Through this journey, you'll discover why the ancient masters sought stillness rather than company, how the discipline of silence can open the gates of divine strength, and why every struggle to stay centered when alone becomes a hidden blessing. You will also learn about the unseen connection between Shaolin mindfulness and spiritual surrender, how the breath becomes a prayer, how stillness becomes movement, and how loss itself becomes the doorway to awakening. There is a shocking truth hidden in this: solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. The world may strip you of everything, but it cannot touch the one thing that matters: your alignment with the source. Stay with me until the end of this video, because by then you will see that being alone with God is not the end of your story, it is the sacred beginning of your mastery. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. If this message resonates with your spirit, join our path, subscribe, and walk this journey of awareness, discipline, and divine power with us. There is a rhythm that exists beneath all movement, the heartbeat of heaven moving through the human form. When a Shaolin monk trains, he is not merely striking or defending, he is listening to that rhythm, allowing his body to become a vessel of spirit. This is what we call Chan Wu He Yi, the unity of Zen and martial arts. It means that meditation is not separate from action. Prayer does not live only in silence. Every movement, every breath is an act of worship. In the temple we rise before dawn. The air is cold, still, and filled with presence. As we bow, stretch, and flow through our forms, the mind empties and something deeper awakens, awareness without words. The repetition is not for strength alone, it is devotion carved into motion. In each punch, humility. In each stance, gratitude. In stillness, surrender. For a woman walking through life feeling unseen or unsupported, this teaching carries profound medicine. When the world withdraws, the body remains, your most faithful companion. When you move with awareness, when you breathe with intention, your very body becomes a sanctuary. It becomes the temple where you meet God, not through ritual alone, but through presence. The Shaolin path reminds us the divine does not hide in the clouds. It lives in the tendons, the breath, the pulse beneath your skin. Each gesture can be sacred if done with awareness. Each act can be prayer if born from sincerity. To embody faith is to let spirit move through flesh, to stand rooted, breathe deeply, and feel life flowing through you. This is not just training, this is remembrance. It is how the warrior's heart learns to bow, not before defeat, but before the divine within. There comes a moment when the noise of the world no longer feeds you. The endless search for approval, the constant reaching for recognition, it begins to taste hollow. That is when life, in its quiet mercy, takes away the distractions. Friends drift, opportunities close. The mirrors that once reflected who you thought you were begin to vanish. And what remains is the silent question: where will your attention go now? True mastery begins with this turning point, the redirection of awareness. Most people spend their lives facing outward, pouring attention into what others think, chasing what fades. Yet the masters of old understood that the power of attention is sacred. Wherever attention goes, energy flows. When scattered outward, energy leaks. When gathered inward, it becomes light, stable, radiant, and unshakable. In solitude, this lesson can no longer be avoided. There is no one left to impress, no noise to drown the inner whisper. Attention becomes a mirror, reflecting your fears, your longings, your divine essence. It is not an easy gaze. The inner world is vast and raw, but as awareness deepens, you begin to see, beneath every thought, beneath every breath, there is stillness, and in that stillness, God waits. This is the hidden grace of having no one but the divine. It forces a sacred discipline to hold your attention like a steady flame, unmoved by wind or storm. The more you return to it, the clearer your vision becomes. You begin to sense a quiet presence guiding from within, not demanding, not distant, but deeply alive. To turn inward is to reclaim your throne. It is where true power begins, not the power to control the world, but the strength to remain centered when the world disappears. Freedom is often misunderstood. Many believe it means doing whatever they wish, sleeping when they want, speaking without restraint, following every emotion that rises. But the ancient paths teach a different truth. Real freedom is not the absence of limits. It is mastery within them. Discipline is not a cage. It is the key. In the Shaolin way, every day begins the same, rising before dawn, breath steady, body awake, mind clear. The repetition is not punishment but liberation. Each routine, each ritual trains the spirit to move beyond impulse. Over time, the body obeys without resistance. The mind quiets without demand. This quietness, this steadiness is freedom. When life collapses around you, when people vanish and the world feels unstable, discipline becomes your lifeline. It is the rope that keeps you from drifting into despair. The simple act of keeping order, meditating at dawn, breathing through pain, moving with purpose, reminds you that chaos cannot touch the one who governs themselves. In ancient monasteries, monks were taught that discipline is a silent vow, a promise made not to the world, but to one's own soul. It is the commitment to rise, even when no one watches. It is the strength to choose alignment over comfort. Through such structure, emotions no longer rule, desires no longer dictate. You begin to stand as your own sovereign, calm, unshaken, guided from within. This is the paradox of the path. What feels restrictive at first becomes the source of your deepest freedom, because when the outer world crumbles, the disciplined mind remains whole. It does not beg for balance, it is balance. Discipline is not control. It is the art of remembering who you are when everything else falls away. There is a stage on every true path where the ground gives way. The things that once gave comfort, faces, titles, roles, begin to disappear. You look around and find nothing familiar, nothing certain. This is the fire test of loss, the trial every soul must pass before discovering its real strength. In the Shaolin way, fire is not feared. It is honored. It represents transformation, the burning that purifies metal into a sharper blade, spirit into wisdom. When loss enters your life, it is not a punishment from heaven, but a calling to refine. The attachments you held, the illusions you served, are placed into the fire, so that what is false may melt away. The ancient masters knew that calm is not granted freely. It is earned through storms. When the heart breaks and the mind trembles, you are being invited to see what remains when everything is gone. That remaining essence, that still spark that refuses to die, is your truth. For the woman who stands with no one but God, this is the sacred furnace. It feels cruel, yet it is divine in purpose. Within that fire, the weak self burns, and the eternal one begins to glow. You start to see that every ending hides a deeper mercy. Every loss opens a space where the divine can enter more fully. The discipline now is to stay present within the heat, not to run, not to curse the flame, but to breathe through it. Each breath whispers, I am still here. With each breath, strength grows quietly. This is how gold is made, not in comfort, but in fire, not in certainty, but in surrender. Loss becomes the teacher that awakens the unbreakable within you. In the Shaolin path, meditation is not confined to the cushion. It flows through every movement, every breath, every task. To live mindfully is to let awareness dissolve the boundary between the sacred and the ordinary. The monk sweeping the temple floor is not merely cleaning, he is polishing the mirror of his own mind. The act itself becomes a prayer, a silent bow to existence. Mindfulness in motion means carrying the same presence whether you are striking, walking, or preparing food. There is no spiritual moment that stands apart from daily life. Every step can awaken you if taken with attention. Every breath can reconnect you to the vastness that sustains all things. When solitude surrounds you, this truth deepens. The silence that once felt heavy begins to breathe with you. The sound of water, the rhythm of your steps, the rise and fall of your chest, all become companions. You start to see that aloneness was never emptiness, only unnoticed presence. The divine waits patiently in these small moments, waiting for you to slow down enough to meet it. This is the essence of embodied mindfulness, to stop separating living from worship, doing from being. When attention rests fully in what is here, the mind grows still and life becomes luminous again. Even pain, when held with awareness, softens into understanding. The ancients taught that the highest form of prayer is not spoken in words, but lived through the body. Each gesture, each movement becomes a thread that ties heaven and earth together. In this way, presence becomes a lifelong discipline, not a technique, but a way of seeing. And when each moment is met in this spirit, loneliness fades, replaced by a quiet knowing you were never truly alone at all. There is a silence that does not come from the absence of sound, but from the calming of the soul. It arrives when the outer world fades, when conversations end, devices go dark, and the only voice left is the one within. At first, it can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. Yet those who walk the inner path know silence is not emptiness. It is the language of the divine. In the old monasteries, silence was not punishment but privilege. It was the space where truth could be heard. Monks would sit before dawn, breathing gently, letting thoughts settle like dust in still water. In that quiet, something sacred begins to rise. Not words, but awareness. The heart listens differently when the mind no longer interrupts. When all others fall away, silence becomes your closest teacher. It mirrors what you carry inside, your restlessness, your longing, your peace. The more you sit with it, the more you realize that it speaks. Its voice is subtle, a whisper guiding you back to the present, reminding you that the divine does not shout. It waits patiently for your listening. Breath awareness is the doorway. With each inhale, you receive life. With each exhale, you release what no longer serves. Over time, the rhythm becomes prayer. You begin to sense that the same breath flowing through you flows through all creation. Silence teaches patience, humility, and presence. It dissolves the need to be understood, replacing noise with knowing. In that still space, you start to hear not just your thoughts, but the pulse of existence itself. And when you finally surrender to it, you discover what the masters have always known, that the quietest moments are where God speaks the loudest. In the Shaolin path, strength without virtue is considered weakness. The outer form may impress, but without integrity, it crumbles from within. The masters taught that true power begins not in the body, but in the spirit, in the quiet decision to live by truth, even when no eyes are watching. Integrity is the unseen discipline. It is the vow made in silence, the choice to remain honest when dishonesty would be easier, to keep promises when no one will ever know. It is what shapes the invisible architecture of the soul. For those who walk alone, this becomes the great test. When there is no applause, no audience, will you still choose the higher path? The Shaolin precepts remind us that virtue is armor. It protects the mind from corruption and the heart from decay. Every lie spoken to the world first wounds the speaker. Every act of deceit leaves a shadow on the spirit. But when your word aligns with your being, when your actions echo your beliefs, there is a quiet power that radiates, unshakable, unpretending, serene. For the one who stands with no one but God, integrity becomes more than morality. It becomes communion. You no longer act for reward or recognition. You act because the divine within demands harmony. In solitude, there is no one left to impress, only truth to uphold. The ancients said, "A straight tree casts a pure shadow, so it is with the soul." When your inner world is aligned, your outer world reflects that peace. To walk upright in darkness is to prove your mastery not of others but of self. This is the quiet nobility of the chosen, unseen by the world but fully seen by heaven. Strength is not only measured by muscle or skill. The Shaolin masters teach that true power lies in balance, the harmony of the hard and the soft. The body may endure the strike, but it is the spirit that endures the storm. The mind may remember, but it is discernment that guides action. To build strength from within is to train all layers of being: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. The monks call this the cultivation of the inner army. It is invisible yet formidable. Physical endurance sharpens the body's capacity to withstand challenges. Emotional stamina allows the heart to remain steady when pain or betrayal arises. Mental clarity cuts through confusion, like a sword slicing mist. Spiritual resilience anchors the soul, offering refuge when the world seems to crumble. Each element supports the other. One cannot thrive without the rest. Even in solitude, this inner army marches faithfully. When the outer world feels empty, when companionship and comfort are gone, you discover you are not defenseless. Every breath, every meditative posture, every deliberate action becomes a soldier guarding your essence. You learn to face fear with composure, despair with patience, and uncertainty with quiet resolve. The Shaolin path emphasizes that strength is cultivated, not demanded. It is the patient repetition of small victories over self, rising before dawn, controlling the mind's wandering, holding the heart steady. Each victory trains the inner army, fortifying your inner citadel. When life tests you, it is this unseen force that stands unbroken. You may appear alone, yet the soul carries a legion of courage, wisdom, and steadfastness. The inner army is not for conquest over others, but mastery over self. The ultimate shield, the unshakable presence, the quiet strength that no circumstance can destroy. There is a misconception that strength is always resistance, that mastery is the ability to control every circumstance. The Shaolin and Chan traditions teach otherwise. True mastery is knowing when to yield, when to release the need to grasp. Surrender is not the absence of power, it is the refinement of it. In the quiet of solitude, when all else falls away, surrender becomes the ultimate exercise of trust. It is the acknowledgement that life, in its vastness, flows through currents beyond your command. To resist endlessly is to exhaust the spirit. To surrender is to align with the deeper rhythm, to move with the unseen rather than against it. The Tao speaks in this same principle. Water yields to obstacles yet shapes the hardest stone. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means opening fully, without fear, to what is present. It is a form of intelligence, a clarity that comes only when the ego stops clinging and the heart begins to listen. For one who stands with nothing but God, surrender becomes the path itself. It is a conscious yielding, not passivity. Each breath is a choice to trust that the unseen sustains, that the divine is enough. Every step taken in this spirit carries the quiet strength of certainty. The paradox is profound. The more you let go, the more solid your foundation becomes. The more you release control, the freer your spirit moves. Mastery is no longer about bending the world to your will, but bending your will to the divine flow. In surrender, the soul discovers a power beyond effort, a freedom beyond striving, and a peace that no storm can touch. When the soul rests fully upon God, the world begins to reflect that alignment. Life itself becomes a mirror, showing back the faith, surrender, and integrity that have taken root within. It is as if the universe responds to the quiet power of one who has learned to stand alone, steady, centered, and unwavering. The chosen ones discover that their presence is never small. Even in silence, even when unseen, their actions ripple outward. A kind word, a gentle gesture, a patient listening. These are not mere acts, they are extensions of the divine energy that flows through them. Service is no longer an obligation, but a natural expression of inner alignment. Compassion arises spontaneously because the heart has learned to move beyond self-interest, to feel the pulse of life itself. Purpose becomes clearer in this state. Without dependence on others for validation, every choice is guided by truth, every step carries intention. The one who rests upon God alone realizes that they are part of something greater, a vast tapestry woven with countless threads, each life touching another in ways unseen. In this understanding, loneliness transforms into connection, isolation into interdependence with the divine. The Shaolin teachings remind us that mastery is not measured by titles, accolades, or recognition, but by the impact of quiet devotion. The chosen ones serve silently, their influence extending far beyond what eyes can perceive. Their touch, their word, their witness carries a weight of wisdom that transcends circumstance. To walk this path is to discover that giving does not diminish, but expands the soul. The more fully one aligns with God, the more life flows in harmony, reflecting back the faith, discipline, and integrity cultivated within. In this sacred reciprocity, solitude becomes fertile ground, and the one who has nothing but God discovers they truly have everything. The path of being truly alone with God is not a place of loss, but a place of awakening. Every moment of solitude is an invitation to turn inward, to cultivate the body, focus the mind, and open the heart. Through discipline, silence, and surrender, the ordinary becomes sacred, and the unseen becomes your guide. Remember this truth. When the world fades and all else falls away, your inner shrine remains. In that quiet space, you are never truly alone. It is here that strength is forged, clarity is born, and the soul discovers its power. What once felt like emptiness becomes the vessel for divine presence, and from that fullness, your life can flow with purpose, wisdom, and peace. Take these teachings into your daily life. Breathe with awareness, move with intention, speak with honesty, and honor the quiet moments. Let each action reflect the mastery that grows within when attention, discipline, and surrender guide your steps. May this journey remind you that being chosen by God is not about having everything, it is about becoming everything you are meant to be. If this message resonates with your spirit, join us on Shaolin Soulfire. Subscribe and walk this path of presence, power, and divine alignment together. Let each day be an opportunity to awaken, to serve, and to stand fully alive in the sacred solitude that shapes the chosen ones.